show. Steve Phillips was on the afternoon show, former Major League Baseball general manager, current pundit. He said that there is, now I know that people have been down, but they did win 2 in a row. Says it was asked if there's optimism for the Cleveland Guardians.
I love the bullpen, and obviously it's, they don't have to score a lot. They just have to score enough. And that's really been the MO there. I mean, they can't buy power in the free agent market, power arms or power bats. So they've got to try to find different ways to get it done. And, I mean, part of my optimism is they did it last year. And, they did get contributions from a lot of different players last year that allowed them to score enough to be able to compete. But, I get that it's not happened so far. But quite honestly, it's not happening so far for a lot of teams in the American
League. The American League is down. I think that some people are making the argument differently. I don't. I think the American League still is not very great. There's a couple teams that are doing well. The National League is a lot different than what I think that some people have said over the last couple of years, but I think they're fantastic. He was asked whether or not on Afternoon Drive, Steve Phillips, whether or not he would trade Stephen Kwan right now.
Kwan is a blender offensively. He's not an aircraft carrier. And so I think you could make any deal you could make today, you can make a year from now for him. And so I don't know that I make a move right now for him. I don't. I think that, he's, let him play it out a little bit, see if you can extend him. I mean, he's not going to break the bank. He's the kind of guy that they can afford, actually, with the type of player that he is. And so I don't know that I move him because I don't know that you get a lot. Cedric Mullins is out there in the market, probably from Baltimore. And, I don't know that I move Kwan right now.
Steve Phillips is a national baseball guy. Insider, knows the game, knows the league, or knows the Major League Baseball, knows the players that are involved and the people that make the decisions in the front offices. A decision like that would be disastrous because you have a fan base that's just starting to cool off because you just won 2 in a row against a good baseball team, and thank God you did. And the bats are actually waking up. Now, the pitching, that's another thing. They're doing the best they can. We'll see where it goes. But I thought it was especially, and I can't believe I'm using this word because I like Tim Kirkjian a lot. We had Tim Kirkjian on yesterday, and what Steve Phillips says, he has a good bedside manner there. What I think was so upsetting is that it came off insulting to the local fans. And I felt pretty upset about it where, hey, I'm not going to pick a fight with Tim Kirkjian because I have to respect Tim Kirkjian's opinion. But when he's telling us that in so many words that, hey, you basically can't really get upset when they don't do well, you should just enjoy the good stuff. I think that really upsets any fan base out there. And there was a lot of people who felt the same way. Like he was almost out of touch with the fan base. Tim Kirkjian's in touch with baseball. But when it comes to a fan base like the Guardians, where, yeah, you've been successful, but again, it's human nature to want more. It does feel like it's out of touch with our fan base.
What is it then about this sport that Tim Kirkjian from afar, and he certainly knows the Guardians' situation. In fact, he definitely knows what their payroll is.
Yeah.
That Tim Kirkjian is basically like, guys, it is a miracle that you guys have been good this long, that you have even been relevant in the baseball landscape. What is it that somebody who covers the sport like that, who has a pipeline, can call up any GM in baseball, can call up any scout, certainly talks with current players, ex-players, broadcasters about the state of affairs in Major League Baseball. He's telling you that it's basically a minor miracle that you've even been this relevant for this long. And yet Guardians fans are like, shut up, Tim Kirkjian, because we got a lot of that yesterday. We got a lot of people that were like, go to hell. Who are you to come in and
there were people telling him to go
us?
to hell. I wasn't one of them. You weren't one of them. But there were people telling him to go to hell.
Yeah. So what, you're really going to argue with Tim Kirkjian, though? Like, if you really had to, what would be your response to Tim Kirkjian?
Well, here's Kirkjian yesterday with us in the morning.
It's easy to say we need to spend a lot more money in order to improve the team. But the Guardians don't have a lot of money. The reason they've been so good over the years is they've drafted and developed players pretty darn well. And Chris Antonetti and his group deserve a lot of credit for the job that they have done with the Guardians. Now, ownership is going to have to get more involved here and try whatever it takes to improve this team. But you're right, they've been pretty darn good. And I'm just not sure that it's really fair to blast ownership and blast the front office for not improving this team when they've done an awful lot of good things the last few years.
And I think he comes off like your dad if you ask him for a new bike and he says, you ought to just be thankful there's a roof over your head and food on your belly, in your belly. And I don't think that a fan base is going to take that very kindly when they've been a successful organization. But I say organization because I think the front office, I don't absolve them of any responsibility. They have some blame. They're a front office. But because of the constraints that they have, I have to put that much more of a microscope on every move that they make. I have to freak out over Miles Straw contract. I have to freak out over Tyler Freeman. I have to freak out over $4 million to Austin Hedges, which in so many ways are just afterthoughts to a lot of other franchises, not just Cleveland, not just the big three that we talk about, but to a lot of other franchises, those are afterthoughts. Now I have to really try to watch and see and analyze how every single penny you spend is put out there for your baseball team. And I don't think it's very fair. Now it's the business they've chosen. I don't think it's very fair still to the front office, but man, when it comes to the ownership, if you can't scream and yell at your ownership, when you believe that your ownership hasn't done what's necessary to make this team a winner, and you can't say that they've been willing to pony up this last offseason, then you are causing a problem. Because if you tell people that they can't be critical of their franchise, then they're going to give up on their franchise. If you're telling me I can't be mad and I can't care, then I'm going to stop caring, which means I'm going to stop going and I'm going to stop listening to anything about the Guardians ever.
Yes, I do think that's happened.
That's dangerous.
I do think that's happened all over baseball, too. So that's not a unique situation.
To a portion of the fan base, yes.
Right. That's not a unique situation here, even though ratings are up and attendance is up across baseball the last few years. With all of that said, I do have to laugh a little bit because I've seen a lot of people say over the last few days when it hit, it culminated into a 10-game losing streak and it seemed like rock bottom and you had a player that's being investigated federally for what could be a giant scandal, like whatever. It got to such a point where I've seen a lot of people say, so what that they've had all this success? So what that they've had the fourth most wins over the last decade in Major League Baseball? They haven't won a World Series. If your barometer of whether or not the Guardians have been fun, interesting, even good is just World Series title or bust, I kind of think this isn't going to be the sport for you.
Oh, so people said that yesterday too?
I kind of think then maybe sports in general aren't for you.
No. I disagree.
The Browns haven't even been to an AFC Championship game. And where are the people calling up every day saying, I don't care about the Browns? They haven't been to the AFC Championship game. I haven't heard that. Have you heard that?
It's not fair.
I haven't even heard that about the Cavs. The Cavs haven't been past the second round.
I know that.
Without LeBron James.
I know that.
They've few and far between have they even gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals.
But there have been proven attempts.
Where are those same fans?
There have been proven attempts with both of those teams to go for it. You don't have, other than 2016, that's nearly a decade ago, Tone. 2016-17, I should say, nearly a decade ago. You don't have any proven attempts to go for it. And you had a chance to go for it this last year. You didn't do it.
Tell me what going for it means. What does it mean? Give me a number. How much do they have to spend?
I don't know.
For you to say that they are going for it. And if that's the case, how many teams in Major League Baseball are going for it?
Oh, I think that you have three teams right off the top, but they're spending a lot of money. I think that you would put San Diego.
Three teams in the whole sport?
Hold on. I said three teams at the top. I didn't say only three teams. I think San Diego, you would look at them as a team that's going for it. I think Philadelphia is a team that's going for it.
And if the Guardians have won more games.
Detroit and the moves that they made were not even that big of moves this last offseason. I think you would say that they were going for it.
If the Guardians have more wins than these teams that are going for it that you're talking about, then what are we really doing here? Like, we just want you to go for it, meaning spend a lot of money if you don't win any games. We'd rather be the teams that spend all the money that win less games.
No.
So it seems like the Guardians are being put in a box that's impossible.
But
like it really is.
I disagree.
Hey, not only do you have to spend money, but you have to then win. Okay, so how many? We're talking three teams in baseball.
When they
have spent money and won. How many teams fit that box that you were talking about?
I just gave you five right there that weren't even those top three.
That have won more games than the Guardians and have spent the money. How many teams? Can you name them?
I can't name them off the top of my head because I don't know the all-time wins list here over the last decade.
Over the last 10 years, give me the teams that have spent and won. How many teams are there in baseball?
How many more have the Philadelphia Phillies won more games? Have they? I got to look it up.
No, they have not. So they are not one of the teams.
The Atlanta Braves did win a World Series. I imagine they spent more money. I know the Braves are not good now. But did the Atlanta Braves, they won a World Series recently. Did they spend
Do you
more
get
money
what
than
I'm
the Guardians?
doing with the exercise?
I understand what you're doing with the exercise.
It's an impossibility because it doesn't exist. Those teams don't exist.
You are also giving every single way out
and people want to say
for the baseball team.
Do people want to say playoff success? Okay, that's fair. Playoff success. How many teams have won over the last 10 years more playoff games than the Guardians?
How many?
5.
Who are those teams?
Phillies, Braves, Yankees, Dodgers, Astros.
Did I just say the Phillies? Did I just not say the Phillies 2 minutes ago?
Now, but wins. If you got to add regular season wins too, they don't make the cut.
But they're telling you they don't care about regular season wins anymore.
So if there are only 5 teams in all of baseball that fit this, then the fact that we're even mentioning the Guardians with them goes back to Tim Kirchin's point is, guys, you are lucky to even be in the same game, in the same discussions as these other teams.
But you guys don't understand why the fans are upset.
I do understand.
216-474-0092.
I totally understand, but maybe
I don't think you do.
I do.
I don't think
because
you do.
I hear from them every day.
You can't say you understand and then talk down to the fans and say you guys should be happy with just winning a bunch of games in the regular season and winning some games in the postseason.
I think it is a miracle that the Guardians are even in any of these sentences that I have given you over the last 10 minutes.
They have punched above their weight. I can tell you
way
that.
Above.
But
and haven't we said, like in sports, give me overachieving teams? When did the Browns, when did the Cavs ever overachieve? Can you give me the years that the Browns have ever overachieved?
2023.
1 year.
2023.
Since 99, how many Browns teams have overachieved?
1.
Give me the Cavs teams.
Oh, wait. No.
Give me the Cavs teams.
07 when they were 10-6 and missed the playoffs, right?
So just in a year that they have a winning
2.
record, that's
an
overachieving
team that doesn't even make the playoffs. Man,
but you're
not really giving that team.
You're comparing
heroes. Welcome.
The success is true; they've been more successful, but as a Browns fan, that they're going to do what's necessary to try to win a Super Bowl. And as a Cavs fan, they're going to do what's necessary.
Good. The Browns are doing what's necessary every year. They're the laughing stock of football.
You don't trust.
They are the laughing stock of football, Ken.
Can you say as a sports fan?
They're doing what it takes to win a Super Bowl?
Look at me in the eye.
Look at all those awesome things they've done what it takes.
Get loud.
Hey, one of them, by the way, it was Deshaun Watson, which I supported that move. But good.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, so if the Guardians did
not me.
What's the equivalent to that move? What's the equivalent to the Deshaun Watson move in baseball? Going and getting one of the highest priced guys that have been a proven guy. And then if you don't make the playoffs with it, great, awesome. We can hold up our banner. The Guardians did what it took, and you'd still be equally miserable at the end of the year.
You and I won't be able to do that on YouTube when it goes full time, by the way, Owen. So going back to you. Look me dead in the eye and tell me that the Guardians have done everything that's necessary to try to win a World Series.
What teams have?
Can't do it.
Give me the teams that have.
Can't do it.
Name me the teams that have.
Can't do it. I just did. We just did.
No, you didn't.
We just did.
No,
yes, I did.
I said
Philadelphia.
You gave me teams that won way less games.
You said the Giants. I didn't mention the Giants.
That won way less games.
You could have done that.
Again,
way less games in the regular season.
You'd be equally miserable.
Way less games in the regular season.
And I'm telling you, you'd be equally miserable as all those teams you just mentioned.
I'm sure I would.
So we'd be at the same discussion.
Let me tell you the difference.
We'd be saying that they swung and missed every single time.
What's the year that they went and they got Nick Swisher and Michael Bourne? And we got dusted on the plane or at the tarmac to go meet Nick Swisher to bring him to Cleveland. And those guys who did not work out here, I didn't yell at Paul Dolan over those guys. I yelled at those guys. We didn't blame the ownership over those
People
guys.
Were pretty damn miserable.
They were miserable, but we blame the players for sucking.
We're going to be miserable either way.
There's a difference.
I'm just telling you.
They want them to have a chance to win everything. For the love of God, I don't understand how that's a hard concept
The hard concept is to act like they haven't been trying to win over the last 10 years and that they are at some bottom-feeding level.
To win just enough. They've been 54% of your games is just good enough to get people keep going in the ballpark.
So would you rather have them be the Browns that try really hard to win and do it at record low levels? Which would you rather be? The people are acting like they'd rather be the Browns over the last decade. I'm like, man, the Browns are the laughing stock of not football, of sports, and yet we are demeaning the Guardians as if they've been worse than the Browns.
With the exception
Holy cow, what am I listening to?
Yes. Is saying that they've been worse than the Browns.
Yes, people saying they're irrelevant. What do you think the Browns have been?
No.
What do you think they've been? Talk about them in the same way. That's all I'm saying. Be equally fair.
Okay.
You're not being fair.
Anthony Dolan,
I don't know what else to
tell you.
Fine. Ken Haslam,
you're making
you be equally
fake
fair.
Argument. You are making a fake argument about this that I didn't even use for it. I didn't even use for it.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you what.
I'm just saying, talk about them in the same way.
Let me ask you
Talk about them on a similar level. If you're incapable of doing it, just be honest, fans.
Team went and paid $230 million for a quarterback that sucks that I didn't want. I didn't want him, by the way. For the record, the guy on the other side of the room wanted him.
Yeah.
I didn't want the guy.
He was a top 5 quarterback, and half the league wanted him too.
Turned out that it was Bill O'Brien who ended up being the top 5 quarterback. So they went out and they got the $230 million. They went and they got the $230 million quarterback. They went out and they traded for Odell Beckham Jr. That was John Dorsey, by the way. That was John.
Who's been way better than Andrew Berry, but go ahead.
Went out and he got Odell Beckham Jr. We spoke that into existence.
Are
those not exciting
Dorsey's
things?
Players are still better than what Andrew Berry's players are.
Okay, but I'm not defending Andrew Berry.
I know. I'm just saying.
You asked me for examples of them
want the
going
Browns
for it.
to
I'm
get
giving
these
you examples of them going
credits. They tried hard. Yes, credit. Give them credit. I wish I could. I want to cash in all the try-hard credits that the Browns deserve right now.
Hey, guys. Would you guys like to go for the gusto after quarterbacks and big names, or do you want Austin Hedges giving speeches in a clubhouse?
I'll take the team that went to the World Series last year. The
Guardians did not go to the World Series
last year. What did the Browns do?
They did not do anything. They won 3 games.
Got their ass kicked by Houston.
They won 3 games.
They got their ass kicked by the team we traded with, and we laughed at.
The Browns got a sneak peek at the playoffs and made a silly decision because they wanted to get to the Super Bowl. The Cavaliers got a sneak of what could happen, and they made a good decision and gave up 3 first-round picks for Donovan Mitchell and are willing to right now, if the Lakers were to give the green light on this, and you know this, they would trade for LeBron James right now. And I'm getting, well, you guys better be thankful that Austin Hedges gives speeches to guys like Jonathan Rodriguez. Well, thanks a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. May I have another on the fan? Justin Latta, 822, whether or not it's a front office problem or an ownership problem with the Guardians, or is it a real problem at all? Lyman says no. Anthony Dolan says no. Everything's just fine.
I don't think that's what I said at all. That's what your takeaway was from all of that?
I just heard a lot of excuses, to be honest with you.
Some of them, certainly some of them are baseball excuses. Like the fact that these teams have all lost, how much money with their local TV deal. I knew that was going to be a doomsday scenario. The minute that I knew this was going to accelerate the bad times for the Guardians, I knew it. I had warned everybody like 4 years ago, like, hey, have you guys been paying attention to the local TV stuff? But what fun is that to talk about that every day? Well, then they did it. They got the rug pulled out from underneath them. There were some attempts behind the scenes to get some other teams involved to figure out a local TV revenue stream. But the Guardians were like out on their lonesome, and they lost $40 to $50 million. And guess what? Next year, again, there is nobody to save the day there. They're just going to be down that money. Well, you already had one of the lowest revenue streams in baseball anyway, and one of the lowest payrolls. So, yeah, if you're asking me, like, am I making excuses for the Dolans? I've wanted the Dolans to sell the team for a decade. I just have always been like, be careful who buys the team because they might not keep the organization intact. And then what do you have? The only thing you've had all these years is one of the best organizations in baseball. And now people are acting like the organization's terrible. I've heard this over the last...
I've not called the front office bad.
But I have heard from a lot of people over the last few days, well, they don't develop. Kirchin's saying they develop players. They don't develop players. They don't draft players well. They don't spend money. Okay, so why do they have so many wins? What did they do to win the games? What other ways are there to win baseball games? Was it Tito? Well, man, you guys put Tito through the ringer in recent years. Said the game passed him by and he had an antiquated style. Okay, then why did they win? What were they doing to win games all these years?
Well,
if it's not develop players, trade for players, what other ways are there? Where are they getting players from another dimension somehow?
I do believe,
what are they doing?
I do believe that if they were given more to spend, they would be able to do a better job because they don't get a lot to spend. We have to put everything under a microscope. It isn't very good where this year, you've had Tyler Freeman do a good job. Junior Caminero is going to be in the All-Star game now instead of Alex Bregman, because Alex Bregman got hurt. That's a kick in the ass for the front office there. But my problem has been, and it has to be, with the ownership. It's directly on what you get to spend on it. I think the front office has done a fine enough job. And I can't argue over the last 10 years. You're talking about a bunch of wins, fine. But in the grand scheme of things, why people are frustrated over what Tim Kirkchin said to us on our show yesterday, which you go back and hear on 923thefan.com and the free Odyssey app, why they are mad is that it's just a giant participation trophy. You win a lot of games. Guess what? That's just a bunch of opening day pitches, a ceremonial first pitches, and free drinks at bars in Cleveland because we're pretty thankful. But people want more. And you could blame that on rings culture, but that ain't my fault.
Right,
that's the times we're living in.
Right. You're 100% true.
Okay, then where am I wrong? Why have you been yelling at me over the last 20 minutes?
Fans don't get to pick the owners, right? We are subjected to whoever buys the team. That's it. There really are there any instances where fans have forced out an owner? How many times has that happened in the history of sports where fans have been so animated, maybe they boycotted, and we don't want to see a boycott.
I bet Ted Stepien was pretty close.
So it's hard to do, right? It's hard. Like media doesn't really, as much as people give the media credit for running guys out of town, does the media ever really run a guy out of town? No. So that's pie in the sky. That's a pipe dream. So we don't get to pick our owner. So our owner is going to spend what the owner is going to spend. Then I'm sitting here and I have to deal with the consequences of that. So if I know that we're going to have among the lowest 7, 8 payrolls in baseball every single year, I mean, what do you do with the expectations for teams like that?
If you can't have any expectations.
Like we should be the Pirates.
If you can't
we should have been over the last 10 years. We should have been the Pirates, right?
Paul Dolan has done more for the baseball team than what the Pirates. See, that the Pirates are the example I use, which are 2 hours down the road. Their fans don't care. That's just a state park to look at the river over there. That's all that is. Oh, and once every 2 weeks because you have homestands, you have Paul Skeens pitching for you. Maybe twice.
And they have to be told every day that he's gone.
And they have to be told every day that he's gone. That is just terrible over there. Paul Dolan's done enough, but he's done enough to get people mad at him because they know you can do a little bit more. And because the front office is that good, they believe a little bit more can mean a big difference to you. Because not the Yankees and Dodgers and Mets win the World Series every year, for crying out loud. But that's part of the reason that people get frustrated, where the Royals won the World Series a decade ago. The Braves have won the World Series. I mean, these are teams that the Detroit looks like they could very well be in the ALCS or World Series this year. If Detroit wins the World Series this year, heaven help Paul Dolan on that with this fan base. Because when you come off an ALCS, it's expected that you do more. And I was with you up until I talked to Zach Meisel. I'm sorry, I know you weren't here for Zach Meisel. You were out dealing with the kiddos. But when we had Zach on and he had to set me straight on that, and he had to basically embarrass me on the air that no, you've been blaming a boogeyman that ain't true about what they've been able to spend and what they've not been able to spend and what they've been able to actually invest in this team coming off an ALCS. I had to be called out on the carpet for that and say that's an excuse, and I can't do that anymore. And if I have no excuses anymore to make, then I only have allegations that I can throw at him.
Well,
and the allegations that I can throw at him is you did not do enough to make your to give your fan base a reason to believe that you're doing what's necessary to invest in the team to win a championship.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that, because if you're just telling me they have all this money to spend that they're not spending, okay, we'll sell the team. But I've done that for 10 years. I don't know. I that would drive me crazy that I would just never watch the team ever again. And I don't want to do that, or I'd never talk about the team ever again if I thought they were hoarding money that they could spend. And all of a sudden, every other Major League Baseball team is not running it like a business, but we're the one team that does. I think it's pretty clear that's not the case. I think there are a slew of teams and a slew of owners. And by the way, whoever ends up buying the Guardians, right? If it is supposed to be this plan with David Blitzer, how is he going to run the team? Do we have him on record?
He'll run it like a business, and he will be yelled at too. It's not where I have.
Will the payroll?
The only thing that I think is going to really change.
Somebody tell me what the payroll will be when the Blitzers take over.
I have no idea. The only thing I think is really going to change is a work stoppage. And if they have a work stoppage, then maybe David Blitzer is able to be the white knight and all this that is able to take advantage as the new owner.
That would be awesome.
And more than likely, we'll just end up yelling at that guy. While slowly and surely, the interest in the game overall, or at least at the major league level, continues to dwindle. Matt Carr, you're first up on the Fan.
Well, good morning, Ken and Anthony Dolan. How's it going?
What's up?
Hello, Matt.
So I know I was scrolling through the X waves and I saw like a big argument yesterday, and it seems like there's a big generational divide too with the fan base, because there's so many fans that are like, I'm 60 years old. I dealt with this team being like, the doldrums of the doldrums. You guys should be grateful for even being competitive. And then you have me and probably a lot of us that grew up on the 90s Guardians or Indians. And it's like, well, no, we were successful. We made it to a certain point and we expect more. Like once you get to a certain point, and it's like, ownership just keeps telling us, well, you gotta be happy. And then when you have a guy like Tim Kirchin come on, say that you guys should basically be grateful for the Dolans, all it does is make you want to punch your windshield out. And it's like, it's basically like saying, so if you're being served Salisbury steak for 50 years, you should be happy to get a cheap cut of steak at a restaurant that's slightly better. Like it's ridiculous that and I honestly do think that Blitzer coming in will change it. And I think
so. What indication do you have that would be the case?
I mean, Limek, it can't get worse, and I don't think Blitzer's involved in politics.
There are like 7 teams spending less money on baseball than us. Are you positive?
I mean, here's the thing: Blitzer's not involved in politics. No one seems to press Paul Dolan on how much money he spent on politics over the last years that could have went towards baseball. He's got money for that.
I think he's I think the baseball team.
I don't think that they use the baseball team for funds for that, but. I think that what you're thinking of is, and I kind of threw it out there yesterday, Matt. It's where, listen, if he's going to sell the team, like somebody messaged me the other day, it's like, well, there's like another 2-year plan for David Blitzer to take over. And it's like, okay, well, that makes it even worse because you're thinking, well, why don't you go into hawk for your baseball team because you're going to make it up on the other end because the team's supposed to be worth $1 billion.
Yeah, because I mean that was the problem too. Like in the Sherman years, because there's supposedly a plan for Sherman to take over too, all that time, and then next thing you know, Sherman buys the Royals, and then they had to take out the share that he had that Dolan had to pay out, and then they had cut payroll there too. So it's like
what I get nervous about.
Matt, thank you for the call.
I've argued over the years. I've been on the radio saying I wish they'd sell the team to somebody with money. Well, Blitzer
has money.
Blitzer has money. The problem is, unlike the Dolans, who bought it at relatively a pretty good price compared to what it's going to go for now, right?
Yes.
And when they had the BAM money, they spent it. When they sold Sports Time Ohio, they spent it. They put it right back into the team. This team, it's going to be bought for not some big bargain, and they're going to buy it as a distressed asset because the Guardians will be down $50 million a year in local TV money. So unlike when teams get bought and there's all this new TV money, the Blitzers, if it's them, they're not going to get that benefit. So how do we know they're going to spend it like it's a hobby and not operate it like it's a business? And then what I'm nervous about is when these teams get bought, they normally do clean house with the front office. So the one advantage you've had every year has been this front office. And when that's gone, and yeah, they're going to try to make a splash with big free agents. I'm just saying, buyer beware.